At the annual conference of the Association of the United States Army, or AUSA, I spoke with Brigadier General John Rafferty, director of the Long Range Precision Fires Cross-Functional Team. That team, part of the Army Futures Command, is a high priority for the Army's modernization efforts. Here's a look at our discussion. General Rafferty, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you for having me.
So, explain the mission of long-range precision fires and how it fits into the Army's modernization efforts.
So that's a great opening question, because it really allows us to kind of set the context of the Army modernization priorities against the pacing threat. And so, more than 4 years ago, the Army started to recognize that that while we had been consumed with operations in the Middle East, our adversaries went to school on how we fight. And started to invest in areas that offset our advantage. And our advantage at the strategic level is fighting as a joint force, and at the tactical level it's fighting as a combined arms team. And using a fire-centric approach to offsetting our advantage by integrating sophisticated air defense with long-range artillery, at the tactical level it breaks up our combined arms team, it separates us. And at the strategic level, it separates us as a joint force and prevents access to the operating area. And so viewed through that lens, that's how long-range precision fires emerged as the #1 modernization priority, because it enables multi-domain operations, both at the strategic level in penetrating and disintegrating anti-access and area denial systems, and then all the way down to the tactical echelon where it degrades the enemy's layered standoff by defeating long-range artillery that I said is defended by those sophisticated air defenses.
So I want to ask you about that A2AD, right? So what you just mentioned, anti-access area denial. Explain what that is, because that's a strategy that adversaries are using.
Yeah, so it's sort of a noun and a verb, right? So it refers in some cases to systems that our adversaries are building. So very sophisticated, integrated air defense systems that in some cases are projected, whether on ships or on islands in the Indo-PACOM region, to deny access to the operating area. They can extend this effect out, and that's really where it's a verb, right? So they are denying access, and they're eliminating our ability to penetrate the airspace or the maritime space, or in some cases land space and cyberspace. So,
or at least hold us off until they're able to do whatever
absolutely.
They need to do.
So the best way I've heard it described was the old TRADOC commander. He'd put his arm out like this and he would say it's layered enemy standoff, and that really is what they're doing, is keeping us at arm's length, so that we can't do what we do best, which is, in the Army, it's fight as a combined arms team. And the reason why that's such a big advantage for us, and why very few other armies can do it at any scale, is it takes a professional non-commissioned officer corps, which our Army has, which is really the envy of the world. It takes dedicated training sites like the National Training Center in California, the Joint Readiness Training Center in Louisiana, and the Joint Multinational Readiness Center in Europe, where we can focus and expend a lot of resources training combined arms units to conduct combined arms maneuver under live fire conditions. And when that's what we do best. And if they can hold us at arm's length and separate us at echelon, then that...
And that's where long-range precision fire comes in to defeat that.
Yes.
How long range are we talking about, and how precise are we talking about?
So I would rather use the term accurate than precise, but it's already baked into our title, so we live with it.
The acronym is there, you can't change it now.
Yeah, right. But sometimes precision gives people the wrong idea, right? They think that we're fighting the last fight, right? I mean, there's so much in a counterinsurgency environment that was associated with precision and minimizing collateral damage and things like that. Well, that's always going to be an item of interest for us. The key is to be accurate, and So starting at the at the tactical echelon with our extended range cannon artillery system, we're going to have to use a course-correcting fuse on that round for it to be accurate at 70 kilometers, so about 43 miles. That's significantly farther than we shoot now. Right now we shoot about 30 to 35 kilometers, so really doubling our range in our tactical formations.
But is that enough, General, given the distances in the Indo-PACOM?
But we don't do it by ourselves, right? So there's not one system does it by itself. We have to think a combined arms approach all the time. So at the in the division fight, we're thinking about enough range to begin to degrade this long-range artillery and air defense systems that then enable engagement by attack helicopters and close air support and robotic combat vehicles and all that, right? So our adversaries are fires-centric, right? They're built around the fires warfighting function, and these and that's where the bulk of their investment is. We're never going to match up system for system, cannon for cannon, munition for munition. What we need is enough to degrade that advantage enough to allow us to take a combined arms approach to the problem. Working our way up, we've got the precision strike missile, which is our replacement to the Army tactical missile system, called ATACMS. The precision strike missile will have a range of more than 500 kilometers, which compared to the ATACMS of 300 kilometers is pretty dramatic. The other part of that is that instead of one missile per launch pod container, so the missiles come in these packages called launch pod containers. On our tracked launchers, you can have 2 of those launch pod containers on there, and for ATACMS that would carry 2 missiles. For the precision strike missile, it'll be 2 inside each. So we're really doubling the onboard firepower, reducing our logistics train considerably, and they cost about the same. So it's a great investment for the Army, and has an opportunity for growth inside the missile with integrating a seeker to go after moving targets on the maritime domain or land domain, and then extend the range even farther.
General, we're going to take a quick pause right here, and then we'll come back and continue our discussion.
Sounds good.
This week, we attended the annual conference of the Association of the United States Army, or AUSA. Brigadier General Rafferty from the Army Futures Command spoke with me about the current programs underway in his office, the Long Range Precision Fires Cross-Functional Team. Here's more of that conversation. General Rafferty, tell me where you are in the development of these systems that you mentioned in the previous segment.
Well, that's very happy to report some recent success from the Armament Center at Picatinny Arsenal. So that's part of our Army Futures Command family under what we call DevCom, or Combat Capabilities Development Command. The Armament Center is assembling our first 18 prototype extended range cannon artillery systems. So these 18 prototypes will be delivered to a battalion at Fort Bliss, Texas in 2023 to begin a year-long operational assessment of how we're going to fight with these systems in a division context. That development is, we call URCA a system because it is. It's the platform, it's the supercharged propellant, it's the projectiles, and it's the course-correcting fuse that I talked about earlier. So that system all has to be delivered at once for it to be really a credible capability. And so our challenge right now is keeping all that development on pace. Our prototypes, we did a christening ceremony on prototypes 1 and 2 a couple of weeks ago with the operational unit from Fort Bliss, Texas. They came in and smashed a bottle of artillery punch on the chassis.
That's always fun.
And it was something that was fantastic to celebrate with our workforce at Picatinny, who really, showed incredible courage and commitment working through COVID when, that was essentially ground zero for the U.S. For about 6 months. But they didn't really lose much ground. They persevered through those conditions, and it was great to connect the operational force with our Army engineer workforce that are assembling these prototypes. So we'll start in 23 with a battalion set. All along the way, we'll have increasing number of soldier touch points to refine the design as we're fine-tuning these prototypes, and to begin to better understand how we're going to fight as a combined arms team with URCA. The precision strike missile, we just reached milestone B in that program, and so we're on a path to deliver the urgent material release of the first set of missiles in 2023 as well. So our development, our production is peaking. Like, we're really starting to ramp it up and begin to.
You mentioned soldier touch points. Excuse me. Tell me about that and how that you're incorporating that in your testing, and at what point are you bringing in soldier touch points?
Yeah, so I suppose the best way to answer that is early and often, and this idea of soldier-centered design is fundamental to Army Futures Command, and one of our primary responsibilities in a cross-functional team is to connect the user with the material developer. And not wait until the end, to start at the beginning when that concept is being cooked up, and then as early engineering on the design is also getting that same soldier feedback, and then when there's something to actually put their hands on, then really the magic starts to happen, and when you see this engagement between engineers, whether from industry, whether from DevCom, and our soldiers and non-commissioned officers in the field who are going to fight with these things, it's incredibly powerful to see, and then you realize, like, we can't do enough of these, and so our soldier touch points are, like I said, one of the most important things we do in the cross-functional team, and I think that they are probably the thing we'll look back on in AFC and say that was the most valuable part of our contribution as a cross-functional team.
What about command and control? What are you doing in that area?
So we have to take an end-to-end approach to our systems. We know we need to see as far as we can shoot, and we need to be able to process data and process fire missions much more quickly. So we refer to that as sensor to shooter. And really what that means is the amount of time from when a target is detected until we're shooting has got to be minimized. To meet the demands of large-scale ground combat in the future against an adversary that may outnumber us, we're going to have to move much more quickly than we do now. And so we need to use machines to help us with that, to augment what humans are doing, not necessarily to replace them. And so we have.
And that's what I was going to ask you, which is data and artificial intelligence. Yes. That's when that comes in.
So part of the Army Futures Command team is the Army's Artificial Intelligence Integration Center at Carnegie Mellon, and that's run by Dr. Doug Matty, and his team is not just helping us create some systems that are powered by artificial intelligence to sort through data and find targets and work with our teammates in Army Intelligence and the ISR Task Force. But they're also helping to educate a generation of data scientists who are going to be out data scientists in uniform, who are going to be out in the Army to help us master the use of artificial intelligence in our tactical formations, as we call it, the tactical edge. But just quickly to answer the question about what specifically are we doing, is there's an Army ground station called Titan, and this ground station will be one where multiple sources of intelligence are sucked in, right? And you can only imagine that's an enormous amount of data. And so we're using several different artificial intelligence engines that are powered by commander's guidance and attack guidance matrix and target selection standards to find targets and generate calls for fire so that they're immediately going to the shooter. So we're shrinking the sensor to shooter timeline using AI, keeping man on the loop, but using artificial intelligence to help us sort through this enormous amount of data that we know we're going to need a lot of help with. So this end-to-end approach, I think, is going to help us realize this. The challenges of anti-access and area denial against a near-peer threat.
Well, best of luck, General Rafferty. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks a lot.